Right. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hello, Lucie. How are you?
Great. Thanks for taking the time today to kind of highlight some of what's happening around Vermont and what has happened during Computer Science Week.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. It was an exciting week this year. Got to see a couple schools. I know there was some things online that I was part of for a little bit, and I know that you organized a few events as well. So it's great, and I think it was nice to see a lot of different audiences involved this year. We had elementary schools and high schools and some CTE centers, and so librarians are always kind of kicking up the jams with computer science. So, and especially with code hour of code week. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of good things happening.
That's awesome. And I really like the spectrum from the younger learners to those on a career path.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
Yeah, so I went out to a couple schools that week. Went out to Rutland Northwest Elementary School, which was in Rutland City, and saw a first grade class using the B-bots. It was really fascinating to watch them, to watch a first grader think about their process of having that computational thinking, of sequential thinking to get to a task or a goal, and kind of watching them do it in a room. They took turns around the room, and they would draw from a hat and find a particular goal they had to reach, and then set up the programming for on the Bbot. But it was neat to watch them. I think you used the term earlier about visual, kind of seeing them doing that visual computational thinking, and really trying to piece together what they can do, and then turning it was interesting to watch them actually program the sequence in the robot and then let the Bbot go, and then if it didn't do it, then you could really see them thinking about, why didn't that work, and what was the thing I didn't do, and how did I, and then they would use some help from some of their peers around the table as well too. So that was kind of nice to see. That was really great. That was with Kathy O'Rourke was the woman in that classroom, which was great, and she had a nice way of working with them. And they had done a little bit before, but I think they really were focusing on it that week, so it was great. Another school I visited a little later in the week was Hinesburg Community School. Went there with Ann Pius, who's one of the tech integration people there, and she kind of led the students. They did a sequence of the code.org puzzles. There's about 10 of them, and they progress through, and they're harder as they go through. As they get more familiar with doing the coding sequence, they get a little harder for them as they go. That was a third grade class. Bonnie Birdsall, who's the digital learning leader there in Champlain Valley, she came out and visited. We also had a couple of representatives from the region, Chittenden region. Bill Lippert is one of them. He's from the Hinesburg area, and then there was another guy, Tim Yanchatka. He's also a representative from that region. I think it's St. George, Hinesburg, that region. So it was great to have those two gentlemen in the room, and I think they really enjoyed it, getting to sit down with the kids and see the ways that they were kind of figuring it out. We've got some great pictures of some big smiles all around of kids and adults, so it's really fun. I should also say, when we were in Rutland City, we also had, his name is Larry Kupali, actually came out. He's the representative from there. And again, I think he had a great time just seeing some kids do that. And Patricia Agner, who's the technology director down there, she joined us as well at that particular classroom in Rutland. So we had some good people out to see what's going on. And I think, as I say, there's smiles all around as people kind of watch what kids are doing and getting excited about it. So it was great. It's really fun.
Super awesome.
I also took part in a little bit of some of the things that you orchestrated with the CTE Centers. I think Bram Moranis, he's from the Burlington Tech Center, Kristen Wilson from Springfield Tech Center, or the Howard Dean, I believe. I'm sorry, it's what is that? River Valley Tech Center, and then Ted Weed is from Green Mountain Tech Center up in Hyde Park. And I think Stephen Davis And remind me where he's from. I can't recall.
BFA St. Albans.
That's right, BFA St. Albans as well. So it's nice to get the CTE folks involved a little bit too, because clearly in many cases they're doing computer science, really applied computer science in a lot of the classes they're working with, which are really pleased to see them get involved with that a little bit.
It's exciting. It's exciting too for our students to see a next step that's within reach for many of them.
Yeah, right, exactly. And in many cases, these tech centers are, either the ones I mentioned, especially attached to the building, or so it gives an opportunity for a wide range of kids to be able to get over there and use those tools and that thing. And this is where it's really important. It goes beyond Hour of Code Week, where it's something that, they can really think about a career path and really a concentrated effort to use those materials and those resources all the time, which is great.
And I think our teachers can have a big influence on mentoring kids in shaping their learning journey, especially in Vermont, where we talk about personalized learning and extended learning opportunities. As an elementary teacher, I might see a kid very excited about this, but I don't know the opportunities out there. And so I think it's important for our teachers too.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it was really nice to see, just knowing, looking at the code.org website and seeing, the recordings of people, where they kind of register having an activity. I think Vermont is always pretty well represented on that site. And it's not just, elementary schools. It's a great mix of them. And I think a lot of that credit, especially with the website, we can go to the librarians with that, because I think they are really forces within schools to get that extended learning piece out and to really take advantage of the things that are happening during Hour of Code Week. I always think of librarians as being the folks that have a little more flexibility at the school to incorporate that kind of thing into some learning, and then actually take it further when we talk about going beyond the week of Hour of Code. So it's really nice. So a huge shout out from this desk, certainly for our library and media specialists who are kind of keeping the flame alive on computer science at the schools.
Well, I know that several of them put together and authored an ebook that highlighted the coding that was happening in our libraries. So thanks to them for taking the time to document it and produce that artifact.
That's great. And you'll do a link for that on the Think About Code site? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's there already.
ebook. That's great. So yeah, I think it was a pretty successful week. Let me say a few words about some of the things that are going on, maybe behind the scenes in computer science here in the state. Last year we created the Vermont Computer Science Alliance. It's a partnership between UVM, Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative, and the Agency of Education. We've recently expanded that out and kind of drawn in the Computer Science Teachers Association, and so the Alliance has now become a chapter of the Computer Science Teachers Association. We have a Vermont chapter. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've invited people who were already members of CSTA, the Computer Science Teachers Association, to become members of our chapter. So that kind of helps. I've noticed our roles have increased within that. I think we've got 50 or so people that are now part of our Vermont chapter, which is really nice because the chapters, the national organization allows that new chapters can apply for some funding for some support and professional development. So we're going to try to do that in the next month or so. So that's pretty exciting. We've had a lot of help with code.org and a partnership with the VCSA, the Alliance, this past summer. I'm going to guess there's probably 50 educators who have gone through the computer science principles, computer science discoveries, and then the computer science fundamentals courses. Darcy Rankin and Greg Young taught the fundamentals this fall. We had some teachers outside of the state teach Vermonters the two other courses I talked about. We worked with our partner states. I think there was one group went to Maine, one group went to Massachusetts, and another group went to New Hampshire as well. I visited the folks in New Hampshire. There's a good sized group there. So that was good. So we've got some good partnership with code.org there, and anticipating some more things coming this year. We've also got UVM working pretty hard at helping to create some coursework that's going to match up to the endorsement we created last year. So working with Regina Tulin, Lisa Dion, Bob Erickson, they're all kind of the computer science team there. They've been doing some great work in just trying to, create some opportunities for teachers. We've had a very preliminary conversation about how we could use micro-credentialing to kind of break some of those skills up and let teachers take some of those independently of doing like a minor or something like that. So we're excited about that. And I'm pinning some hope on that for getting teachers kind of jazzed about that as well. So might need a couple of pilot districts to do that. Yeah, so I mean, those are some things that are going on. We're working on a possible grant from the NSF. I've been working with UVM on that. That could provide some funding for some opportunities for professional learning for computer science teachers over the next couple of years. Again, that's at a pretty early stage. The grant, the NSF grant is due in February, but there's also a way that we could use the February date as a preparation for then moving to a larger grant in the following year. So we may do that as well. So I don't know. So that's that gives you a pretty good idea of some things that are happening and thinking about.
So I know that you've been really involved in computer science in this movement towards. You've added this to your area of responsibilities and passion.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you can tell us why. What's the why for people in our state to get on board at whatever level, whether it's an elementary teacher like Kathy Rourke or CTE or everything in between, librarians? What's our why that we're spending so much time on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I think it's because I see computer science as a way to engage kids, especially at younger ages, to engage kids in the whole thing about like problem solving, computational thinking, logical thinking, and really, engaging in that kind of thinking so that it becomes a habit and not just something that you do once in a while and in a class, isolated from other things, because I think the only way we're going to get kids thinking about and moving to kind of a career of tomorrow, or is if they can really like be flexible and think about how you solve problems, and this always comes up. Not every kid is going to be a coder, and go on to have a computer science background or degree or job. But I always feel like, you need to expose as many kids as you can to these kinds of fields and these kind of career paths. Because I also believe that, eventually there's going to be a little of that in a whole bunch of different careers and career paths. So, so it certainly doesn't hurt to put that in their tool belt, as you will, and have that to move forward with. So,
I mean, everything you look into, whether they have an iPod or a phone or something, or they're learning to drive a car or repair their car, it's all related to it. I used to tell my young ladies in my Tech Savvy Girls program that computer science was a gateway to so many other careers. Maybe you didn't want to be a coder, but your understanding of computer science blew open your opportunities in biology or a different whatever areas, other areas. So I think the gateway to other areas is something that people don't have a lot of experience knowing that it can open up other possibilities.
Yeah, it's really true. It's really true. And it's funny in my role. I can remember a conversation a few years ago. I don't know. This was couple administrations ago over at the governor's office about, involving kids in computer science. And the way they had the conversation was they were like, oh, well, we need to get, 11th and 12th graders involved in computer science. And it's like, wait a minute, folks, we need to be thinking about third and fourth graders in computer science and first graders in computer science, because that's the only way we're going to get them to think about it later when they get to be 10th, 11th, 12th graders, is if it's something that they had a positive experience with when they were young and they kind of, got not just interested in it, but really actually kind of excited about it, and the mystery and the solving and, those kinds of things. So I think that's really the important piece to think about as we continue that. And I love to see, I think Hour of Code Week, and it's reflected a little bit in the data that we have in Vermont, on their website. But there's a lot of elementary schools, and again, the library media specialists help a lot with this. A lot of elementary schools that are part of this and really get in there and kind of promote it as kids learning that kind of things. And it's great to watch. That classroom in Hinesburg, you could see it, and I've seen it at a number of the schools as we've done this over the years. Those kids get really excited about kind of like going through a sequence of solving and getting a little harder and having success, and that sequence is great to watch in younger kids. So
you're absolutely right. I think that I forget what grade that by which a lot of career decisions are being made in our kids that we don't realize.
Yeah.
And so it's in second grade that young people are making some choices and thinking about careers that it's almost too late by the time we're in our 11th grade. You can choose to go to a career and tech center or the college.
Yeah. I mean, 11th, 12th graders, not all of them, of course, but many of them, by the time they get to that point, they're already thinking about something they're going to have an interest in, or
have excluded some fields, totally not even thought about.
Exactly, right.
My 5th grade granddaughter even sometimes will say, "Oh, my brother's good at that," and I look at her; she has such an engineering mind, and I see that, and I said, "You're a little engineer, or you're so good at science," and she says, "Oh, no, my brother's good at that," and she's 5 years old.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's hard because we do know in Vermont we do have a gender gap in that. And we definitely need to address that and make it so that, young women are not thinking that, this is not something I can do. The boys do that better or whatever. We need to, really instill that value that it's for everybody.
Well, I've seen some growth in Girls Who Code chapters happening around Vermont. The founder of Girls Who Code came to Vermont recently, and I know there are schools that are starting to adopt chapters. Last year, our Tech Savvy Girls Camp, which is in year 20 this year, had 50 to 60 girls. We had to close registration. So I do see some interest growing in those areas. So that's awesome.
That's great. Are you doing it again this next summer?
We are. It'll be year 20, and a shout out to the North Country Career and Tech Center for really being behind keeping it going, and to the Rotary Club up there who has also given past support, and the Vermont Women's Fund. So year 20, we're going into it.
That's great. Congratulations on that for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Peter, for giving us an update on what's happening. The state from the state.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Great.
And we will hopefully continue to get updates from you through a variety of sources, I'm sure.
You bet. And thank you for doing this. This is good.
Bye, Peter.
All right. Thanks, Lucie. See you later.
Bye. Stop recording.